up whatever's on your mind at 855-450-FREE. It's the SACL CAI toll-free line, 1-855-450-3733. It is an unusual edition of Free Talk Live, and it will be for the entire week. We are just kicking off the 2012 Porcupine Freedom Festival, and I'm so excited to be here. It's great to be back at Rogers Campground. And we do have a special guest here on microphone number 3 tonight. He is an author. Boston Tea Party is the pseudonym, but I don't know if you want to use your real name on the air, so we'll just call you Boston Tea Party.
That's fine, yeah.
And I've actually read
it's
your
a nom de plume, pseudonyms for like bank robbers and stuff.
Really?
Nom de plumes for authors.
Okay.
Yeah, after a bank robbery, I went to a nom de plume.
There you go.
With books. Yeah. Right. I've given up the pseudonym.
You've been writing liberty-oriented material for a long time. I remember reading You and the Police and Bulletproof Privacy back in the 1990s when I was growing up.
Right, 96 and 97 they came out.
Great books. And those aren't the only books you've written. There's another one that you wrote back then that apparently you've just revised.
That's right, Ian. In 97, I wrote a book called Hologram of Liberty, The Constitution's Shocking Alliance with Big Government.
Because a lot of small government people, upon a plain reading of the Constitution, they believe the Constitution is a small government document. And I certainly came from that.
So did I.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So that's not true?
It's not true at all. If you look at who agitated for the Constitutional Convention back in 1787, who wrote the document in that 3-month-long convention, and then who, pressed for its ratification through the Federalist Papers, these were all nationalist-type people. They wanted a nationalist, mercantilistic system and a strong central government. But they knew that half the people...
Madison, Jay, Hamilton?
Absolutely. Hamilton in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Washington, and they got themselves all lathered up over the Shays Rebellion, which was a creditor, a revolt in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew the people of the day, at least half or more than half.
You mean the rebellion like the rebellion that they had just led?
Yeah, there's some similarities that they didn't quite, see.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Very ironic. But, now those guys, after the revolution, were in power. And so when there's a rebellion against their structure, they see that as threatening.
No, yeah, they got to go kill those people.
And got very nervous about it. So they wanted a strong central government, but they knew they couldn't get it immediately. So the next best thing was to write the rules of the game, so to speak, in the Constitution, where the strong central government would eventually occur over generations. And that's exactly why we have what we have.
Wow. And you really believe it was that calculated?
Absolutely. There's no doubt. There's internal papers. There's the different drafts of the Constitution where they massaged it to move the rules of the game, where the feds would trump over the states and the people.
And you go over all this in your
very
book.
thoroughly, yeah.
Can you stick with us for a few?
Sure, be happy to.
We're coming up here with Boston Tea Party. And so we're here with Boston Tea Party. We're at the Porcupine Freedom Festival 2012 edition. How many of these have you been to now, Boston?
First Pork Fest. Having a great time.
Really?
First Pork Fest. I'm
shocked.
Spoken at 2 Liberty forums before.
Okay, that's where I've seen you then.
In 09 and 10, so to speak.
Well.
But usually the Pork Fest overlaps the Free State Wyoming's Jamboree, which is a similar outdoor event. But this year does not.
That is not the case this year, which means you could attend, in theory, both events.
Exactly.
That seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, I love it.
Different times.
Right.
Now, Free State Wyoming, you mentioned it. Let's talk about it. What's that mean?
It's a Western alternative in some ways to Free State Project. Had FSP chosen Wyoming.
And it was on the list.
It was the number 2
It was, yeah, by a couple of hundred votes. It was very close. Mm-hmm. But had it gone the other way, where the FSP had chosen Wyoming, I am sure there would have been a Free State New Hampshire. Just because people, enough of them wanted to stay in the East. And it was the same for us out West. So I don't see us as competition, but complementing, because not everyone can come out East and, vice versa.
And they don't all want to. I mean, people like the West for whatever reason they like the West.
Exactly.
I'm not from the West. I don't understand it, but that's fine. I don't need to.
Right. Yeah.
So how long has it been going on? When did y'all get that
Since
started?
04.
04.
Yeah, we've had a couple hundred movers. We've got about 9,000 on the forum. We've got hundreds more pledged to come out to Wyoming. It's not as energetic of an organization as far as political activism and marketing and so forth, but, it hums along pretty nicely, and we like it just fine.
Well, I'm glad to see that it's still going. I mean,
absolutely.
It's good to know. There have been a number of Free State fill-in-the-blanks that have kind of fallen by the wayside over the years. Free State Europe is one of them, I believe. Last time I checked their website, it hadn't been updated since 2006. There was the Free State, there was this Free Southeast project, which hasn't done a damn thing since their
I saw something on their forums, but they're certainly not as far along.
They have forums now? Last I looked, they didn't even have a website.
The Facebook.
Yeah, well, the last I heard from them, they were going to have a website, like when they first created their Facebook page, I said, well, when's the website coming? We're working on it. Well, apparently they're still working on it.
Yeah, it's a website.
Right. If I want to put a website up, I talk to my tech guy, Michael Hampton. I say, hey, man, I need to get a new WordPress blog up. He has it up for me, within 24 hours.
You could have one with...
I've got it configured within the next 24 hours.
Plainboards.com. You could just go and... you could buy the web domain. Just go to plainboards.com and forward it to the link.
Look at you thinking like a webmaster now, Mark. I'm proud of you.
Can I tell you?
Right. That's right. Plainboards.com can help you, too. So, there's a bunch of people out there that have been talking, well, we need to do this in our state. And we get that a lot on Free Talk Live as well. How come we don't have Free State Ohio and Free State Arizona and Free State? Well, doesn't that defeat the purpose? I mean, isn't Free State, the Free State Project in New Hampshire and Free State Wyoming, isn't that enough? I mean, can we just keep it there so we can concentrate our activism in one place? Because that's the whole point of these projects, is to move people who care about freedom to the same place so we can actually accomplish something rather than be this, lone voice screaming in the wilderness about freedom as the boot crushes our throats.
True. Yeah, if we had 500,000 active free staters, we could support a dozen or more free state movements in other states.
But we don't have those numbers.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, of all the people that are active, like maybe right now with the Ron Paul campaign, only some of them are going to continue to be active after Ron Paul, because a lot of them don't know what the hell else to do besides the Ron Paul campaign. They haven't heard of the Free State Project or Free State Wyoming.
Right.
But to even activate a small portion of those people and get them to move,
that's the hardest thing.
Can make a huge difference.
That's the hardest. It's the final thing. Pack up, move, change your life. New job, new business.
It's a huge
and all that.
commitment.
It is a big commitment.
It's the ultimate. What else? What more could someone do? But
with the way the housing market's been over the last 5 or 6 years, it's a very difficult situation. Yeah. When the prices were just going up, it's like, oh yeah, well I'll sell this one, I'll buy another one, it'll keep going up. But then it crashes, so you're invested, you're upside down, you don't want to leave.
Yep.
And then you buy one, and you're stuck, and it's much more difficult. It's much more of a commitment.
Right. That's true.
So freestatewyoming.org is where folks can go to learn more about the Free State Wyoming movement. And, of course, our friends Michael Dean and Vidati from the Freedom Fiends.
Right.
Michael Dean is based out of Casper. So
he's an FSW, valued member and a very interesting guy, and we loved having him out there.
Fantastic. So is it at Free State Wyoming or FSW? Is that Free State Wyoming or Free State West?
FreeStateWyoming.org.
Okay,
From there, our forum has a bounce link, and most of the action is on the forum versus the website. Our website's pretty stale, like a flyer.
Yeah,
basically pointing towards the forum. So that's where the action is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to share about your book?
Well, I wanted to talk about the book.
Sure.
Because we were talking about how the Constitution was actually a document intended to grow government.
The book is called, by the way, Hologram of Liberty, and it's just been updated this year.
Yes.
So you'd made the statement. Back it up. You said that there's these other previous versions of the Constitution.
I wouldn't say previous version, but
drafts.
Within the and it's hard to get into that over the radio because you're looking at committee of style, committee of detail, and all that. But
we've got about a minute to get into it.
Do we? Okay. Well, let's fast forward as far as like the revision I did after the last 15 years. I predicted back in '97 there would be real 10th Amendment friction and challenges between the states and the federal government.
We're
seeing that right now with the Firearm Freedoms Acts, especially with Obamacare that Supreme Court is going to rule on at the end of the month and all that. So we're at a real crossroads coming up with, can the states maintain any form of federalism and Republican government under the Constitution, or is the Supreme Court going to allow the federal government just to run totally and finally roughshod over this titular, limitation on the feds? And
I'd bet on the latter.
I would too. I'm forecasting a 5-4 decision upholding the individual mandate and Obamacare, and therefore the rest of the package.
Well,
I think Kennedy will swing over that way.
Now, we recently read an article that said that 25%, 24% of the people think that the states don't have the right to secede. Is that something that was ever? Did anyone ever talk about this? The exit clause to the Constitution?
Well, the Federalists that started the Constitution thought they could secede, and they almost tried to in 1814. So, given that as some historical background, I think there's historical background by the founders of the Constitution.
Do you think that who's going to be first, Wyoming or New Hampshire?
I think Wyoming or Montana has the edge in a secessionist
I hope you do it, man.
Yeah,
we'll follow suit. We're wrapping up this episode live from the Porcupine Freedom Festival 2012 edition. Go to porcfest.com, porcfest.com. We will return tomorrow night. You can join us online in the meantime, of course, over at freetalklive.com. Thanks for coming, everybody.